think about, am I on the pursuit of the goal, the purpose, the assignment that I have set out for me, or am I attached to only doing it when it's attached to this particular thing over here?
Welcome to Elevation Change Podcast, episode number 6, right? So get ready to take your mind on a journey of transformation with Elevation Change. So in this podcast, it explores the peaks and valleys of personal growth, the pursuit of life with a purpose. And so I appreciate everybody who's tuned in so far. This is episode 6. Everybody's been rocking with me so far. Share us with somebody who needs to hear it. If this information has given you value, go ahead and share it with somebody. That's all I ask of you. I'm not asking for donations for anything. I don't run ads on this. Maybe ads might become, but they also might be free. I don't know. But go ahead and share this with somebody. But let's get into it. So today's episode is about creating meaning in your work. And so I want to build on this topic, and y'all kind of see a theme where I'm going, where I started with self, and I'm kind of still on that track of self. And I wanted to talk about, because y'all know I deal with a lot of leadership within the workplace, and the biggest thing that people struggle with is creating meaning in their work. Like I have so many people who talk to me and they're like, this isn't the job for me, and I don't know why I'm here. And then when I start to ask them, what is it that you're supposed to be doing? What's your skill set? Like what is your gift that you're supposed to, be giving to people? And they don't know. And so that's why I wanted to do this particular episode, because we have to figure out how to create meaning in the work that you do. And even for me, I'm in a space to where, yes, I can be on stage. Yes, I can be consulting somebody. Yes, I may be coaching somebody. And that all aligns in like the meaning of the work that I do. And it doesn't matter what industry it is. It doesn't matter what company it may be. As long as I can perform particular tasks, I understand the meaning in the work that I do. And it doesn't really matter what role it is. Maybe I'll do a podcast one day as far as like how to lead from, if you don't have a particular title. But let's get into it real quick. So I got the principles. Of course, I want to give y'all practical information to where y'all can do something with this after you leave, and not just have listened to this for about 20 to 30 minutes and you haven't really gotten anything from it. So let's talk about it. So the first thing is, and this sounds like real cliche, but it's align your work with your values. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what are your values? What is it that you value? Right? And so like, here's my thing. I want you to start to think about your values in a sense of what drives and motivates you. Right? Like, not in a sense of, I want an upstanding job with a lot of ethics and, and they take care of their employees and all stuff. Like, that's great. But we're talking about you right now. What are your values? What do you see yourself and why are you on this earth? What do you want to give back to this earth? And so when I think about some of my values, is that I want to see people grow. I want to see people better themselves. I also want to get pushed into a way of, maybe I don't know some information. Maybe I need a particular level of development. Maybe I need to get around people, and there's people that I've had speaking gigs with, and we stay in touch with each other because they can pour back into me. My work aligns with what I value. And so you have to think about that yourself. See, there's sometimes, and some of you are probably listening to this, and you're like, well, I'm just a regular worker. Like, I'm a line level worker. I don't understand how this aligns with my values. I was there at one point. But I had to find, how does this align with what I do? Because I have to learn a particular skill set, right? For those of you in customer service, don't glance over the fact that maybe you're just answering the phone all day. Can you effectively tell yourself that you can understand how to speak to different customers? It's no different with people in leadership. Do you understand how to deal with different personalities? Can you speak to, and I've heard it from y'all before, I can't believe my boss spoke to me like that. Had me messed up today. I get it. But the values in is that I really want to be able to help people. I really want to be able to tap into people and bring the best of them out. And I might be in a job to where right now I'm learning how to talk to different people. See, you just don't turn it on one day. You just don't, you don't sound like a robot on the phone one day. And then the next thing you just understand people that well. I practice that on the phone, right? You practice that on the phone. Maybe you're a mechanic and you love tearing down things and building them back up. You say, you know what? Right now I'm just a tool hand. And part of your values is that you like putting things together. You really value putting things together mechanically. And right now, all you do is hand tools to somebody. But in that moment, do you understand why you're handing him that particular tool or her that particular tool? Do you understand why this particular type of work is being done? What's the process on having these things? Are you taking mental reps on how to really do that until it's your turn to actually do it? So what are your values? And so that's the part that you're really going to have to dig deep. And I wouldn't even be mad at you if you paused the podcast right now and you started writing down 10 things that you really value. And then from there, start ranking them. What's number one? What's number two? What's number three? Because guess what? Maybe that 10th thing that you value is kind of important, but if it's not there, it's fine. Or maybe number 9 is like, that's cool, but if I don't necessarily get to do that right now, that's okay with me. But what about your number 1 through 3? Maybe those are non-negotiables and you have to be in a position or you have to be getting developed in that particular way. And so that brings me to number 2, right? And this kind of goes with the overall theme of like you have to find significance in the impact that you make. So it's too often, and I just talked to y'all about a simple job. Like I may be handing somebody tools. I may just be a cashier at work. What's the significance in the impact that you make to people? See, everything coincides with one another. Everything is practice, in my opinion, at least. And the significance that you bring and the impact that you make can be seen in other areas of your life. I may be a cashier and one day I strive to be a great artist. But guess what? If I can find art in the conversations that I have with people, yeah, I may be checking you out, but I also may hold a conversation as far as maybe you give me some perspective. Maybe you spark an idea in me that says, you know what, I'll go paint this, I'll go create whatever type of art based on that conversation. Maybe I had a good interaction with something or someone, and that gives me an idea to go do something. Maybe I'm a scientist, and right now I'm just doing data entry, but maybe I can start looking at the data that I'm actually putting in and seeing how that correlates to the end result. I'm not just putting numbers in there for no reason. Maybe, again, I'll go back to customer service. Maybe you're in customer service and your goal, and this is a true story. I had one of my employees one time, she said, I'm a caterer. And I said, okay, cool. So your customer service value is low right now. They used to get surveys. And I said, what's the 2 things that people look for when they try to hire a caterer? And she said, well, the food has to be good. I said, cool. I said, what else? And she was like, I guess the price. I said, no, because the price can vary. There's people charging $150 a plate for normal food. There's people charging $20 a plate for normal food. I said, it's the service. Because I don't want to work with a caterer who's an asshole. I don't want to work with a caterer who is mean, who doesn't answer my phone calls, who's difficult to work with. That's customer service. Now, we can't figure out whether you cook good right now, but we can figure out whether you can be nice to people and you can understand how to speak to people. So find the significance in that impact, right? It aligns with the values. My ultimate goal is to do this, but I'm in this particular position right now, and it will help me learn these things. I used to do a job with attorneys all the time. Right. And we would go back and forth. And we'd have to settle injury cases. But guess what I got to learn? How to negotiate. Guess what I do in my business now? I negotiate. That was free game. And now when I go into a negotiation, I understand how it goes. I don't have to second guess myself on how negotiations happen. I found the significance in what I was doing. Now, some of the other stuff, it may not matter. I may not ever see it again. But in that moment, I've spent so many times negotiating and finding impasses and figuring out how to get past those impasses. To where I even got to a point with myself where I was like, do I really know how to negotiate? Because I'm so comfortable with it. So find the significance, right? Find how it plays into your life, because everybody just thinks that they should have the job that they have right now. Everybody feels like they should just, whenever I hop into the field that I'm supposed to be in, all of a sudden life is just going to click on. And guess what? You had the opportunity to build some skills in the last job that you had. And so because you fumbled it, you're not going to be as good in this role as you were before. And that goes into number 3. You have to seek the growth and development. So we found a significance to it, but I told y'all about the negotiations, right? I told y'all about the individual who had the catering company. You got to seek the growth and development, because in any given space, right? I'm okay asking a director, a vice president of a company. I'm telling y'all, I went speak at a school and I was asking the principal different aspects of what it does to do their job. I might as well be well versed. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to develop. I put myself in rooms where, if y'all listen to the last episode, if you haven't, go back and listen to it, that I was like, I don't belong here. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what language they're using. It just seemed overwhelming to me. But the more you put yourself in those spaces, is the more you grow. That's the more that you develop yourself. See, the problem is with a lot of people is that you don't want to squash your ego and put yourself in a room where other people are so much further ahead than you, and now you feel less than. See, I talked to y'all about failing forward. That's part of it. I put myself in rooms where maybe I don't speak as well as other people. One of my mentors, probably 1A, 1B motivational speaker in the world. And him and I have had conversations, and his right-hand man, shout out to CJ, by the way, his right-hand man, him and I have conversations. He's like, man, you got something. Now, you can't be on stage with him. You can't, you're not on that level yet, but you got something to you. But that doesn't mean I'm going to back down and say, well, because I can't be on stage with him right now, I can never be on stage with him. There's still growth. There's still development. There's still nuance and tweaks to do what I do, right? And there's people who seek advice from me. See, there's always going to be 3 levels, and I'm going to give y'all this game real quick. There's always 3 levels. So you should always have a group of people who are higher and you're trying to shoot to where they are. There, you should have another group of people who are on the same level as you, and then you should have another group of people where you're pouring down into them to get them to the level that you are currently. Seek the growth and development within yourself, and that way you can help develop other people. So the next part is, and this is real vital to like everything that you do, because it's hard to grow and develop, right? It's hard to realize the significance that you're making. It's hard to find the values that you have. It's hard to do all that stuff. And again, if you haven't listened to the last podcast, definitely go listen to that, because this coincides with it, is you have to cultivate positive relationships. And so there are so many people that I have met in my life. There's so many people, and I'm not saying all of them are good. So sometimes you're going to have to weed through. And that's a problem that certain people have as well, where they will say, well, I'm meeting people. They're not on the level that I am. They don't see the vision that I have. They aren't action takers like myself. And that's fine. You're going to have to weed through that a little bit. But when you find those people that can help you, that are on your side, that you can help, that you can feel the energy is positive between them two, it's well worth it. Because you spent your time trying to figure out who needs to be in your circle and who doesn't. So cultivate those positive relationships with people, because that's going to open doors for you. Those are the people that are going to put you in rooms that you previously could not be put in. Like, I really want you to think about this. And I'm going to tell y'all just a little story right quick. When I was in college, I became friends with, and we weren't even like super cool friends like that. Shout out to Josh, for example. But we weren't even super cool friends. But because of my character, he messages me one day. He says, hey, I know you're in healthcare. You're trying to graduate in healthcare. He was like, how about I try to get you on at this internship that I have with Texas Children, big hospital. And so in my mind, I'm like, cool, let's do that. I need an internship. I had a class coming up where I had to find an internship anyway. I looked at it as, hey, doors were going to be open for me anyway. Step one in relationship building. I made such an impact on him that he decided, hey, look, when I had to think about someone to come on with me or someone that I had to reference, it was me. So then snap forward, I get the internship, and then I continue to cultivate these relationships. And I'm talking to one lady who's a director. She's a nurse practitioner. She's been published in multiple articles. She's done a bunch of things with her life. And then she takes me under her wing because I am a positive relationship with her. And here's what I'm going to say. You don't have to be on the same level of someone for it to be a positive relationship. You just have to show a willingness to these people that you want to learn, that you can help them in some type of way, that you can provide value to them in some type of way, and they will pull you up with them. Fast forward, and all of a sudden she says, hey, I have a project that you can work on. Oh, by the way, you'll get published in a medical journal. Never in my life would I have thought that I would get published in a medical journal. But because of the impact I made for her, because of the relationship that I had with her, the humbleness that I kept with her, she says, you know what? I think that this is something that can propel your career. And even if you, and this is her words, even if you never decide to work in healthcare before, how cool is it to say that you got published in a medical journal? How many people can say that they've done that? And so then you take the next relationship, and then she starts speaking my name in certain rooms, and then all of a sudden I get hooked up with a chief medical officer, the big boss. And I talked about seeking growth and development. The rooms that I used to sit in with this man had no clue what they were talking about, but I had to be like a sponge. Didn't know what type of level, like high level conversations being had with him, overarching views being discussed with him, big moves, right? We're not talking about, hey, what should we budget for food this month? We're talking about what should this health plan, what should this hospital allocate money towards, that way they can be able to carry out this project. Oh yeah, by the way, that project is going to help hundreds of thousands of people with sickle cell. Oh yeah, by the way, this is going to save people millions of dollars by going to urgent care over an ER. Oh yeah, by the way, I want you to be on this other project with me because I've seen the type of work that you do. There's this project that I need to wrap up. And oh yeah, by the way, you'll get published in that too. Now I have 2 journals. Oh yeah, and by the way, I told this other director about you, who's about processes, and they were a black belt. For anybody who knows like Lean Six Sigma, they were a black belt. I think a double black belt, something like that. Had all these accolades to herself. And oh yeah, I told her about you, and she said she wanted to talk to you about a few projects too. And so then all of a sudden, I get brought in on projects that I get event planning experience. And I get to see the ins and outs of how we afford credits to medical education, right? Continuing education for doctors. We'll put on the event for them. I get to meet those people in those positions. So cultivate the positive relationships with people and watch how many doors it opens up for you. Watch how many rooms it will allow you to be in, right? But you have to think about, how am I growing? Squash your ego and say that, you know what? A lot of times I'll be in these rooms And sometimes you just got to shut up. And that's just be me being real with you. But find the relationships that you can build with people. And so then the final part is, and today I'm not keeping y'all long, is to connect with the bigger picture. Right? Everything that I've talked about so far, it boils down into that. Connect everything with the bigger picture. See that nurse practitioner that helped get me published? She said some very powerful words, and I didn't realize it at the time. She said, whether or not you ever pursue a career in healthcare, how cool would it be for you to get published? That's opened doors for me into other areas, not even healthcare wise. When I have those chief medical officer, I can give him a call and say, oh, okay, I need a letter of recommendation for whatever it may be. Right? If I call someone on my phone and say, hey, do you need help with this? I can come speak for you. I can teach your people how to do this. They know that my character and the relationships that I've built have taken me thus far. So I want you to think about how you connect everything to a bigger picture. See, I told y'all about the negotiations. That pours into my business now. Where I would have had to learn how to negotiate. See, I've worked customer service jobs where I have had to learn how to speak to different people. You don't get everybody the same on the phone. I've worked physical labor jobs where I've had to learn how to grind through the day. And I'm tired and I got to wake up the next day. And even though it's hot and I have a hard hat on, and I got all these things going on and the sweat's in my eye, and I'm about dehydrated at this point, I got to learn how to push through. So think about how all of these skills go into your bigger picture. See, too often we sit here and think about the jobs and the things that we've done in our life. They don't have anything to do with what happens going forward. So there's too often where I'll talk to people and they'll say, hey, I used to work as a front desk receptionist in this particular office. And now I have another job that's dealing with customers face to face. And they act like that this is something new. But in reality, you've seen it before. You used to greet customers as a receptionist. Now the only difference is you stand up in front of people and talk to them. You had to make conversation with them. You still have to make conversation with them here. Like if you're good with your hands and you're doing some type of physical labor job, or maybe you're some type of trade job or something like that, all of these things coincide with each other. But you have to start deducing them. And so look for my car people, right? I'm going to talk to y'all real quick. So I was having a conversation with my dad, and y'all don't kill me if I get this wrong. But he said, if there's any problem with your car, he was like, there's a certain few things that you have to look for. And just like in your life, if you're struggling in certain aspects, there's a certain key pieces of like in your life that you have to develop. So the first part was he was like, if there's something wrong with your car, he was like, look to see if there electricity. I was like, cool. But in my mind, I said, just like in life, hey, do you have that spark? Do you have the aura to yourself? That's like, hey, this person has an infectious like attitude, they're positive. I want to be around this person. And then so he was like, you have to figure out if there's air. And so I was like, okay, cool. And just like in life, I was like, okay, cool. What does air mean really for your life? Right? It's like, can you flow? Can you adapt? Right? Can you facilitate certain things? Can you move it forward? Which brings me to the next part where he said, hey, he was like, then you got to look to see if there's fire. And I was like, ooh, now you're talking. Because that's the part where you got to start doing. Right? You don't just get electricity and air and then you put a little gas in it, but there's no fire and you expect stuff to work. And then he said finally, he was like, you got to see if there's gas or whatever is being injected into it. Now for y'all car people, I'm gonna stop there because I know y'all about to kill me for butchering this. But that was the final part to where he was like, is there gas? Because what that means is that are you continuing to flow and you continuing the flame? Or are you pouring into the flame to keep it going? And just like in life, you can get started. I don't know how many people that I run into that say, hey, I have LLCs right now, and they've done nothing with their business, or they've taken over a team, and they've not poured into that team since then. Right? Have you put the gas in place to continue that to go on? And the final piece is, and I told you I was going to leave y'all there. The final piece is the timing correct? And that's a big part, just like in your life, because if the timing is off in your engine, you're going to break something. And just like in life, if the timing is off, you're going to be in the wrong room at the wrong time. You're going to be in a different room than you should be in. You're going to try to get ahead. You've now gone viral and you have no system in place to be able to convert people. You struck gold with your team and y'all are doing particular things, and now you're underwater because you took on a position that you quite weren't ready for. But I want y'all to think about that. And I'll leave you with this, right? As always, as we wrap up the podcast, I want you to become someone that other people can lean on. Right? And so I hope you got these principles. Share this with somebody, leave a comment, and we'll see you next week.